Record and then I didn't. So welcome everyone to the January Jumpstart. Here we are, another fresh new year, ready to get cracking on what's most important to you in your life and your career and what you want to focus on. So I'm hoping this 50 minutes, 45, 50 minutes will be jam-packed. I'm going to move pretty fast so that we can get a bit of planning done and a bit of reflection and thinking. And at the end, make time for questions and sharing and support along the way. But also I'll ask you along the way if you've got anything that you want to comment on as well. Always, I like to start with paying my respects to traditional custodians of the land on which we're gathered. I'm on beautiful Wonnarua and Darkinjung land. If you happen to know what land you're on, feel free to type that in the chat box. And also, I want to pay my respects to all of the leaders who have gone before you as well, because we're often a leader because we've been shaped by so many leaders that have gone before us. So I also want to honor those leaders who have gone before you and maybe shared and supported you to become great at what you do. So hello from Awabakul, and we've got Darkinjung as well, Awabakul as well, Bidgal. Great. Awesome to see you're all coming in from different spots around this beautiful country that we live in. This very warm, muggy, hot, humid country. So this is all about planning out your leadership career for the year ahead so that you can get a January jump start. And I don't know about you, but often we set goals, but we don't always think about planning our career. So sometimes our career happens a bit by chance, sometimes it's opportunity, and sometimes we get a real clear focus and go, I want to do this. But this is to support you around planning out that year ahead. If you don't already have your calendar preloaded around this stuff, maybe you've already got all the work stuff in, but you don't have enough of yourself in, then you can kind of feel out of control pretty quick. I was just coaching some managers and leaders from Essential Energy this morning, and 3 of them were saying, already my calendar's starting to fill up. Now everyone's coming back to work. So we can feel a bit out of control if we don't take control of the reins. If you have no plan, then what happens is we often start that chasing shiny objects. And the next thing and something that looks good, or we go and seek and go, wow, that job sounds great. Oh, why don't I try this? Why don't I do that? So really, we want to have a bit of a plan so that we're not just chasing anything. And also, when we don't have a plan, I don't know about you, maybe you've got really strong boundaries, but it can be really hard to say no when you don't know what you're saying yes to. Without a plan, we start saying yes to all sorts of things, and we don't say no to the things that aren't in alignment. So having a bit of a plan is to help focus what are going to be your yeses, and are there some hard stop no's that you need to put in place now? Lots of people I talk to as well say, I hope I get a promotion. I hope I get a secondment. I hope those leaders or executives are seeing my worth and my value. But hope is not a strategy. We really have to be thinking about shaping our own future. And I'm all about personal responsibility and accountability. So we have to take the reins ourselves. And so let's get started on planning. But what's really good to do is to do a bit of a review about the year before we get clear on the path for the future. So make sure you've got your workbooks now. Be a good time. Is there anyone that doesn't have that with them? Please raise your hand or let me know if you need me to drop it back in the chat box. But you should basically have these worksheets. Awesome. So we're going to start with this page. And I've left it pretty brief with only small spots because I want you to just do quick, snappy reviews. First things that come to mind, okay? So don't overthink it, don't overwork it. Just go, what are the first things that jump out at me? And we're going to start here at the top in this kind of reflective piece about what has this year looked like. So firstly, I want you to think about what were your pinch me moments? What were 3 things that stood out, maybe professionally or in your career or in your business, that you go, they were really great moments? So I'll give you a moment or so to jot some notes or write yourself some things around your pinch me moments. And hopefully you have 3, maybe you even have 4. Oh, cool. No worries, Susie. All right. The second part is growth. So, what were some of the biggest challenges that you really grew from over the past year? What did you learn about yourself? So, what are some of the challenges and what did you grow from? I'll give you a moment to reflect on those. Cool. So, great. We've had a little reflection. Next, let's move on to the middle section of that right now. Where are you now? So it's often a great thing to get some closure and to look at, do I have any incompletes from last year, any unfinished business? What's anything I need to stop or drop right now? I know for me, I've been reflecting on some of my social media and some of the things I've been doing of late. And I realized I kind of have started 2024 a bit the same. So I've really done a stop and think, and what do I want to drop? So have a moment to think about, is there anything you want to drop? All right. And then secondly, gratitude. Who are you most grateful for? And maybe you need to reach out and thank, like Sally was saying, giving feedback. So I kind of say, I like to think of who's my person of the year. Is there someone who I would give an award to, if I needed to? And is there someone I need to reach out to and thank? So have a think about that. Feel free to pop in the chat box if you want to, if you've got any incompletes or person of the year. I'm going to keep moving, but I'd love to see them if you want to type them in. Only if you wish to share. Maybe incompletes is chocolate or something. I don't know. All right. So we've done a bit of look at the past, look in the now, and let's look at going forward and really thinking about how do you want a career progression to look for your leadership, whether that's you're in business or whether you're working for someone else, but what do you want your leadership to look like in 2024? And there's 3 things that I invite you to consider. The first is that your career follows your calendar. Now, I was just talking again to the essential energy managers this morning, and one of them was talking about this calendar and it being filled up by everyone else, and that he'd actually made a commitment about his career to himself. And I said, where is that in your calendar? And he said, oh, I don't have that in my calendar. It's just my goal. And I'm like, but if it's not in your calendar, it's unlikely to happen, right? Because we often end up scheduling our life around our calendar. So your career will follow your calendar. Have you mapped it out and planned it out, and have you actually put it in? And so you really need a bit of a roadmap that's going to help you stay focused on growing your career and leadership month by month, like a milestone, something to do, something to be focused on. Like you were saying, Sally, like the focus that you've had on feedback. It might be every month I have something in there that's just around, oh, what's my focus this month? Keeping that in mind. The second thing is we only want to think once if we have to. I love what they always say about Barack Obama and also Steve Jobs, that they both wore the same thing every day, that they just had like 2 suits, 2 turtlenecks, 2 shirts, whatever. And they wore the same thing every day so that they didn't have to overthink it, so that they didn't have to have a decision around what will I wear. I know for us girls, maybe a little bit more challenging. Don't know if I'd be comfortable with 2 shirts, but it just pays to think about, can I just think once? And then it's mapped out, right? Yeah, because we get a lot of decision fatigue. It's why we can't decide what to cook at dinner at night, because we've usually used up all of our decision-making power. So creating some kind of simple plan that focuses on what are the key areas for you. And I'm going to share 3 that I know are proven to shift managers and leaders, but you might have 3 others as well. There might be some focus areas for you. But actually having a plan around that helps you just think once, plan it out, map it out, and then lock it in. And also some milestone magic. So what we want to do is actually think about what are the big rocks and how will I know when I get there? So if there's an outcome around my career or something I want to achieve this year, like finishing a diploma, as we heard before, then what are the big rocks and chunks that will tell you that you're on your way? Not just the goal at the end, but actually maybe it's I'll have completed module 1. I'll have done assessment 1. I'll have talked to this person. I'll have updated my LinkedIn bio, whatever it is, actually having some milestones around that and having that mapped out as well. Because they're markers then in our life and in our calendar, and we can easily track, am I getting there? Am I making those step-by-step momentum that I need to get? And we also want to know that a good plan is flexible and simple. So it might change along the way, but still having some yardsticks. I know for me, having those in my calendar is super helpful. And they'll pop up and I'll go, oh, that's right. My focus for this month was meant to be that, right? And already I've gotten kind of sidetracked with client work and that sort of thing. So it just helps bring you back to what did I decide was most important for me this year? So we want to have big rocks in our calendar. Now, for me and what I've seen with clients I've worked with, really they come down to often freedom, and that's our time and how we spend our time, career and our income, because that's leverage and allows us to do things, and our leadership or our impact. As I said, you might have some other options, but they're the 3 that I like to focus on from talking to lots and lots of leaders and kind of hearing what are the core themes. That's how I've kind of grouped them as we could suggest. No worries, Beck. So if you grab out this second page in your Jumpstart little pack and have a look at this first column. So let's think this year is actually 2023, the year that's just been. And I want you to think about, and next year will be 2024. So thinking about the 2023 year, if you have any idea, and maybe you've got to sit or even open up your calendar or just count, how many monthly meetings would you have? And write that number in this year for 2023. So I know lots of leaders I work with, when they add it up and they go, well, I have one-on-ones with my team, I have an exec meeting, I have a cross-divisional meeting, I have this meeting with stakeholders or clients, whatever. And for many of them, 40 is not unusual to have in a month. For some of you, it might even be more. So do a quick tally. What would you think a regular month would be? And I'd love you to pop that in the chat box if you've got any idea as well. Roughly how many meetings? Now, I know, Anthony, you just had client meetings all morning, so maybe you've already racking some of yours up this month. How many meetings would you have? I can see Sally counting. How many weeklies? 6 specific monthly meetings. Yeah. However, lots of additional. Yeah. Lots of ad hoc. It's way more, Marissa, than you think. Yeah. Yeah, right. Good point, Anthony. Got to have an agenda. What's the purpose? How do I add value here? Why am I here? Otherwise, why bother? Right? Yeah. Time is such a precious resource. Yeah. So it's not until you start adding them up, isn't it, that you go, oh, wow, like I actually do have a lot. And then thinking about paycheck or what your income is. Now, for a lot of, say, middle managers, leaders I might talk to, it might be around 130K. You don't need to share this, but just write down for yourself, where's that at the moment? You know, for many, it could be a lot more. For some people, maybe they have flexibility around family and they're at 80 because they work 2 days a week or whatever it is. So just think about roughly what was my paycheck 2023. And then lastly, how many people do I support? So for here, I put average manager might have 5 team members. Yeah. Or at least 32 meetings. Yeah. Yeah. Sadly, isn't it? So number of people supported, because really the privilege of being a leader and being in a role where you support others and have others working with you is that you get to make change and influence others and help them in their life and career as well. So if that was 2023, what do you want this next year to look like? For most leaders that I work with, they say, well, I definitely don't want as many meetings. Generally, I hear people say, I want that to go down. So in your little box, what would be your ideal number of meetings in a month? Think about your ideal. Sure, there's going to be some necessary ones, but what would be your ideal? And perhaps there's some meetings that could be a conversation rather than needing to be a big scheduled meeting. Or maybe you could consolidate some. 3 a week. Yeah, that's nice. That sounds like a really nice rhythm, Marissa. So 12 a month. And then thinking about your paycheck, which is your leverage, you know, what you, I guess, trade your time and energy for. And I'm not talking here about investment income and all those sorts of things. I'm just talking about what you get for your profession or whatever you're doing professionally. Generally speaking, most people want that to go up. And generally speaking, now interest rates go up, you know, CPI increase, all the cost of living, we need it to go up, right, in order to stay ahead. But what would you like it to be? So write that down. And lastly, how many people do you want to support? Do you want that to increase, or are you really comfy where it's at and it feels good? And I'm not talking about supporting family or those sorts of things. I'm talking about who are the people who you get to positively influence. So now you've got some stats. These are kind of the big rocks to start thinking about adding into your calendar. And before we get to the big rocks, though, what often happens is that we get some obstacles that can often get in our way. And so I'm inviting you to think about these obstacles. And if you think of a traffic light system, where if I'm doing really well with this and I feel completely comfortable, I'd give myself a green light. If I'm like, I could do better, there's some iffy bits, maybe an orange. And if you're like, no, I definitely am not doing great, it might be a red light. Yeah. So let's walk through, this is a model that I've developed from looking at all the managers and leaders I work with, and we're going to break it down. So typically there are 3 obstacles when you boil it all down, and there are 3 solutions to overcome those. And all of those can just be formed into one simple plan. So obstacle 1 is self-doubt. And I work with loads of senior leaders, and you wouldn't believe how much this comes up when I'm privately coaching people one-on-one. When behind closed doors, they might look confident, you know, in their meetings and things that they're doing, but they'll often go, oh, I don't know if I can take that next step to a director general level. I don't know if I could become a partner in the firm. They often have some self-doubt. And you might want to think about where you're at on each of these. So the criteria that feed into our confidence, which is how we overcome self-doubt, is self-worth, the mastery of that, our personal strengths, and knowing our own strengths. Oh, good. I'm glad it's where you're at, Anna. Hopefully we can help you overcome that a little bit. And lastly, as I was talking about before, taking real ownership. So thinking about your own self-worth, your own personal strengths, and taking ownership, rate each of those with a red light, a green light, or an amber light. Just think about self-worth. Maybe I'm an orange. Personal strengths. Yeah, I know myself really well and what I'm good at. I'm a green. Yep. So just rate yourself. And you can either draw the diagram or just write a note, whatever works for you. And you'll see on the last page of your handout that these are actually part of the core criteria for building confidence. Yeah. And part of the roadmap that we want to be able to tick off. So some of the foundations that we need to lie and lay before we then can move up. Yeah. Just like building a high-rise building, say in Sydney, the deeper the foundations, the higher the building can go. If we want to build a great career as a leader, we've got to have solid foundations in place. So rate yourself in those three. Now, obstacle 2 is to have no plan, right? We were talking about before bright, shiny object syndrome and kind of saying yes to everything because we don't have a plan. To overcome that, we want some real competence. Yeah. And the 3 key areas to have competence in are effective time management, improving our own productivity and of others, and constructive feedback. So just like you were talking about, Sally, you've really started to master that and work on that. Constructive feedback, so important. So rate yourself now with the traffic lights in effective time management, your productivity, and constructive feedback. Where do you think you're at with each of those? All good? Beautiful. And they're at the bottom of the competence column. So building these good foundations, which then become the foundations of all the other higher skills. And then lastly, the third obstacle is low trust. Now, lots of people kind of go, oh, trust, like I've got high trust. But by trust, I mean more who knows you, who likes you, who trusts you, who knows that they can rely on you. Yeah. And so that's about building your credibility because you can be a really good, trustworthy person. But if no one knows that, it's not going to help you get very far. So we want to increase our trust and credibility that more people know they can rely on me for these things, that I have a bit of presence around certain things. And so the core elements or foundations of credibility are your peer networking, how well you build teams, and how well you develop others. So teams, more the team essence and culture, developing others more that individual one-on-one, some of what you've probably been doing, Marissa, around building others. Yeah. So rate yourself red, amber, green in those 3 elements that are at the bottom of the credibility game. And so you'll see in this manager to leader shift approach is we need foundations in our inner game, in our skills, and then also in our outer game and how we work with others. And so once we have those in place, then we know we've got really solid foundations to plan out our year and our career. So looking at all of those, they might show you a bit of a gap. And let's just pause for a moment. All right. So lastly, at the bottom of your handout on that first kind of page, thinking about that, what are your 3 goals or aspirations for the next year? For this year, 2024, where do you want to go? Are there any of those areas you want to work on? Is there a goal or aspiration you have for your career, your leadership, your journey, where you want to go? So I'll give you a moment's reflection to jot those in. Okay, if you've only got 2 at the moment, that's fine. Be confident in that Sally. Put it out there. Maybe it's learning to have those difficult conversations. It might be, as you said, Marissa, building your team and building others. It might be an award or an accreditation. You might want to go to the next level in something like we just heard before with a diploma. Maybe it's finding a new mentor. I know for me, I've had different mentors and coaches over my career because I'm like, I need to learn this now. And maybe there's someone that's a better fit for that. Sometimes I've overgrown or outgrown a coach, because I've kind of got what I needed from them. And, then I've gone, okay, I need someone else with a different focus. And I've always gone from male to female coaches and different people. Some of them might be in my industry, other times not. Maybe you want to get a promotion, or maybe you've had a big project that you want to finalize. So what we want to do is put those in our calendar first. So if you have a digital calendar that you use or something that you already use, now is the time to open it and actually write it in. So maybe in October, you think, I'm going to have a promotion by then. Go and put it as a diary note now. So actually start scheduling that out and going, that's what I want to happen by then. Because remember, if it's in the calendar, it happens. So you just never know how the universe will work with you and back you if it's already in your calendar. So feel free to jump into your calendar now and add in any of those 3 goals. And any of the milestones that might be a marker. So it might be enrolling in the course, completing, getting halfway through, whatever that might be. I'm doing my company directors course at the moment, and I've done the workshop part, but now I've got exams and assessments. So they're all already in my calendar. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to open up your calendar and do that. So it might be something you want to continue with after as well, because you might have lots of little milestones that you want to set up, but it's so critical and it's really great. It's like athletes that want to win a gold medal, they visualize themselves getting that gold medal. So to actually have it in your calendar and go, by this date, I'll have achieved a promotion, or I've landed my new job or finished my course or whatever it is. It's super motivating to have that in the calendar already. Not at all, Beck, you're good. And so that's the calendar I dropped in the Dropbox if you want something that's easy on a one-pager. But next, I want you to think about fun and freedom. What's some of the fun stuff you want to do this year? With who? So I know in a couple of weeks, I'm going with girlfriends to one of those Pinot and Picasso, paint and sip nights, and it's a Mamma Mia theme. So they're going to play Mamma Mia music and we're going to paint a Greek island scene, right? So what are some of the fun things that you want to do? Go and put them in your calendar. And of course, the dates might change between now and when it actually happens, but actually schedule, say, a monthly catch up with my bestie, or something I want to take my mum to or do with someone else. So go ahead and put some fun things into your calendar now. What are some of the fun things? Yes, absolutely, Anna. They should come first. Like, put your holidays in. If you know you're having a couple of weeks holidays, put them in, put the fun things in. I know Marissa and I have a mutual colleague, Michelle, and she used to have her assistant actually schedule Wednesday afternoons, a couple of hours, a random fun thing in her calendar for her. And so her assistant loved doing it. She got to plan it, and she would not drop it in until that week. And so Michelle wouldn't know what she was doing. She just knew between like 2 and 4 on a Wednesday, she does something fun. And so the assistant would have, go to Black Butt, go to this zoo, or go for a walk here, or I've set you up for a coffee date with your best friend, like all sorts of things. There's a new art show on, and I've, bought you the ticket for the art gallery and it's in your calendar. And so she would just go because it was in the calendar. So think about what are some of the fun things and schedule those in, because at the end of the year, we don't want to say I was a good person because I worked a lot and had lots of meetings. It's those things that we'll remember. So dream big, think about what would you like to do and put that in. And so really also think about those monthly meetings. How could you drop some to make some more time for that freedom? Could you, as Anthony was saying, be more time effective, use your calendar and your time better, that it does squish up some things and allow you some more space for that freedom? Because that's what makes us great leaders too. If we have freedom in our life, if we demonstrate to our teams that we are balanced and we are healthy and whole beings, when there's so much focus on psychological safety now, and yet you see so many executives actually just burning the candle and burning themselves out, it is not healthy. I remember working for a government agency where I was a director. And when I first started in the director role, in my first 3 weeks, other directors said to me, "Are you married?" Which I actually was at the time. And they said, "Well, no director here has ever survived. No one's marriage has ever survived." I mean, what a thing to say. But it was like, they were like, be prepared to be married to your work because it's not going to be any other way. Determined to make time to get to lunch. Yeah, lunchtime Pilates class. Amazing. Yeah, don't bump the exercise. Have that scheduled in. Just say to people, "Oh, I could meet with you, but not for until half an hour after that," or whatever it looks like. I used to work a lot with the CEO of a television station, Jeff, and he used to go for a swim at lunchtime every single day because the studio was not that far from the beach. And he would run over the hill, have a swim, and run back. And if you had a meeting with him at, say, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he was as bright and sparky as if you'd met him at 9. And he said it was because he stuck to his ritual of going for a swim. So think about that and what that demonstrates to his team around being a great leader, that I'm not just, a workhorse that's slogging all the time. No worries at all, Anna. Yeah. So think about reducing those meetings. For your income, what does the next level get paid for? So just think about who maybe is a step ahead of me in whatever industry or field I'm in, who's at the next rung. And remember, this is not about just making money for money's sake, but the leverage of what can you do with that. So think about, what does the next level get paid? If you don't know, go and Google it a bit. Have a look. What do I think people that are at that next rung or a bit more successful than me in their business or career, what are they achieving financially? And so what actions might you need to take to build this in as well? Is there some skills, some experience, whatever? And think about writing those down. And after we finish, plug those into the calendar as well. Really backtracking and go, if I want to go to that next level, maybe I've got to do some public speaking. Maybe I've got to get better at my directorship skills. Maybe I need some better financial skills, whatever it is. And think about planning those into their calendar. Yeah, right. Instead of the day-to-day, Marissa, actually thinking about what are some of those things that are going to actually move the needle forward, because we fill up our life with sand otherwise and not the big rocks. So super valuable. And if you're not sure, ask someone. If they're ahead of you in the career, say, "I'd love some advice from you. And what does that look like?" So this is thinking about, what impact do you want as well? What do you want your impact to look like? So jot a few notes on that handout. What do you want your impact to look like? How many people do you want to support? How do you want to see them grow? Is that going to increase too? And after the call, maybe put those in the calendar. I see myself handling a bigger team, or we're going to partner with another company. We're going to influence in a different way. We're going to start measuring our impact maybe, rather than just how are we going as a team? Are we meeting KPIs? Actually think about, and what impact does that mean? How is that changing the world? And lastly, once you've started getting all of this into your calendar, you start to see the priorities. It's kind of like going, what are my values? And if someone picked up my calendar, would my calendar represent that? So when I see someone's calendar and they say, my family's my biggest priority, and I don't see them anywhere in their calendar, I'm like, maybe, or if they say my career is, but I don't have anything in there for it. So we want to stress test the plan. We want to go back through our calendar once we've added all the chunks in that we've talked about today and go, will those things that I'm putting in actually get me there? Like, let's be realistic. Will it actually get me there? Is this a 6 months, 12 months, 2-year plan? What does that look like? And if I get there, what could break? Because I think sustainability is super important as well. And I know I've done years where I've, run the treadmill, worked really hard in the career or focused only on that as a burner. And then I have had relationship issues or I have had health issues. I've had complete adrenal fatigue from doing really well at my role. And I would have told you, job's great and I'm fine. When in fact, I was flatlining because I was pushing too hard. So we really want to stress test the plan and go, am I actually going to get there? What could break? And if something could break, maybe amend and adjust the plan to make sure I can still say I'm a healthy whole being and I won't be burnout. And in December going, oh my God, like I'm dying for Christmas break to come. We want to be having ebbs and flows. We want to be getting to the end of the year and going, I am fully satisfied that I did what I wanted to achieve and it's been a lot of fun. Yeah. So we really want to think about how can we make it sustainable. So that's kind of a conclusion for a really quick jumpstart into how can we get a bit more focused for the year ahead. And I know it was pretty fast, but I want you to really just go with top of mind things. Hopefully it gives you some things to think about from here moving forward. So thank you so much for your time. I'm going to hang out for a couple more minutes too.